And let's say we take on the persona of a child who's really struggling, and they're used to struggling because unfortunately for this child, most lessons are a struggle. And they know that they might be in a brilliant school who offers them, support and scaffolds and help and a great teacher, etc. But there'll be a point at which the student stops asking for help. And we've tracked this in some of the research, like how many times will a student typically ask a teacher in an average class, one teacher, 30 students, 45-minute lesson, how often will they actually ask for help? And usually it bottoms out somewhere between 1 and 3 times in a lesson. And these might be students that need help dozens of times in a lesson. So, what's the false ceiling going on in terms of how often they'll ask for help? The other end of the range of things, we might have a really capable, really confident, highly skilled, very efficient student who's just able to get on and run in terms of what they're doing. And maybe it's because what's been offered to them isn't challenging them quite enough. They could go further, they could be pushed further, deeper, whatever that looks like. How often will that student, let's say in a secondary classroom, say, "Please, sir, I want harder work. Please make me think." How often does that happen? In a teenage environment, particularly, not so often. So, are we creating a false ceiling for them as well? And this is where the dignity piece comes in, because there's all kinds of ways that we can offer support and stretch and challenge without other students needing to know that that's being given. It's not a case of having to put your hand up or be seen to ask the teacher or to walk across the classroom and get a resource. There's other ways we can do that. And digital plays a really powerful role in bringing that to the desk and the fingertips of the individual student. So, dignity in learning, access, sense of purpose. What's the point of school? And then, like, what does it mean for me as a learner?
There's something there, though, just to sort of play devil's advocate in our thinking here. th- of course, we're going to get to technology and what sort of opportunity and also challenge that might bring to these environments. But isn't there something important about having to raise your hand and overcome a feeling of vulnerability in order to ask for help, in order to get support, in order to access content differently. Um, I'm mindful there's a tension there, and I just wonder what your thoughts are around this, and how important are those moments of vulnerability and overcoming them.
Absolutely. And I suppose what we want to do is just tease out where it's important to be vulnerable within ourselves and be and recognizing where we need help and where we need support and allowing that cognitive friction, that vulnerability, that need to come to the surface. And the social dynamics of appearing vulnerable in front of peers who may or may not support that vulnerability. And what we want to do perhaps is think of those two separately rather than merged, which is sort of typically what happens. They're all sort of in one space. Ideologically, every single human would be fully supportive of everybody else's unique and individual and diverse needs and so on. Ideologically, that's exactly where we want to be. Um, the reality of the world we live in is that's variable in terms of what we see in action. So what we want to do is in spaces that maybe that's not so achievable in, or achievable is maybe the wrong word, that we don't see that so much in some spaces. And they're typically spaces where there are other confounding issues or challenges, and they might be to do with, the teenage years or the social space or, the demographics, or that's the wrong word, the nature of the group of people in the classroom and the things they bring in, the different kind of personal capital they bring into the classroom. Those create another layer of dynamics. And what we want to do is recognize that, work on that, but not have children unable to access the support stretch challenge they need whilst we work on those things as well.